Hey y'all, it's Helena Lena with What's Poppin USA, Small Business Support Network. And y'all, have you ever gotten into an argument with your significant other? Wish you had a relationship coach or maybe a mediator to come in between y'all and like referee sides and whatnot. Well, y'all, our guest this week, Miss Nrgy Speaks. She is a certified life coach, relationship coach, and a registered mediator. Y'all, it's gonna be juicy. Let's talk small business and then some. All right, y'all. Well, as promised, here we have Miss Nrgy. And as I've said before, I don't know if you've heard me, I've said, I'm like that crazy stalker ex-girlfriend that will go all through your shit. So I found out, y'all, that we're like basically neighbors.
Yes.
We live in the same town.
Oh my gosh. That's
How
rare.
cool is that?
Yes.
That's really cool, though. That means that this was meant to be.
Yes.
This thing was
That's
meant to be
right.
right
I
here,
agree.
girl. So, y'all, this is Miss Nrgy. Nrgy Speaks. She is here in the Metro Atlanta area with me, and she is a self-mastery coach, a life coach. She's a registered mediator, and y'all, she's a relationship coach. And we all know, women are from Venus, men are from Mars. We be speaking that whole different language, girl. You know what I mean? And sometimes we just kind of miss each other. So, Nrgy, please go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody and tell us how you got started in this, and just kind of like what you do, what you actually do.
Yeah. So thank you for having me on your show. But I am Nrgy, the self mastery coach. I ultimately work with high achievers to help them live their purpose and live on purpose. And I do that as not only a coach, but also as a speaker. And as you mentioned earlier, also as a court registered mediator. I do that by helping them to master their mind, master their emotions, and master their assignment. So everything's self mastery. I've been doing this whole personal development, self improvement, been in this field for almost 2 decades now. I got started very young. My first exposure to all of this, and before I knew that it was a thing, was
Right.
well back in middle school. One of the schools, or the school that I went to, the principal and the counselor, they created a program and it was called peer mediation. And they chose 2 students out of the class to be peer mediators to help facilitate different issues and conversations and just different problems that our fellow students were dealing with. And they chose the 2 of us because of just our natural ability to communicate effectively, to listen intently, to really be able to understand what people were going through without judging them, and so many other personal character traits that they saw within us. And so from the training that we went through in that program, the different strategies and techniques that we learned, I basically carried it and continued to develop those skills year after year. And then a few more years later, once I graduated high school, and I saw that coaching was an actual business, because ultimately that's what I was doing, but I hadn't gotten paid between my middle school years and up until my first client once I graduated high school. But by then, that's when I got my first client, first paying client, and I've been doing it ever since. And from that point is when I've been doing it for about almost 2 decades now. I'm doing it now as a career. because I am walking in my purpose. I figured out that this is why I am here on this earth. So I basically answered that call. I am fulfilling my assignment. And for me, it's just all about assisting other people with the tools or providing the access to the knowledge and just helping them really get motivated, but then more so help them follow through with actual practical steps and solutions in order to achieve that burning desire that we all have within us in order to
Right.
simply be the best version of ourselves. So that's
Right.
me in a nutshell as far
Well,
as who I am, what I do, and why I am doing what I'm doing.
I love it. I see you as, you know, they're helping them navigate
Yes.
the
Yes.
the muddle, right?
Yes.
Because life can overwhelm, and then we throw in the majority of us have a regular 9 to 5, right?
Mhm.
Our big girl or big boy job, right? And then we're also, trying to get a side hustle or a side business, a growing business
Mhm.
off the ground, right? And then don't say that we've got a husband or a wife and then throw in some kids, and then if you have some animals, and then if you own your own house and you got a lawn, and now like there's trees and leaves everywhere, right? And the list just, you have like 1,200 different hats on there, and sometimes it's hard. It's like, balance time for me when I sit on the toilet, like,
Mhm.
and that's it. So I can really see, the high achiever that who always wants to go forward and doesn't really get, I call it that hamster off that wheel.
Yes. Yes.
Is how I see it. So I'm curious. You said you were a court registered mediator. So is this like family court? Is this divorce court, or is this family court for children?
So I have two registrations, one for civil mediation cases. And then, so that's more like your business type of dealings, anything that's not domestic related, because that's the other
Yes.
registration that I also have. So I do deal with family and divorce cases as well. Yeah. And
You
that's
got
where
it going
the
on, girl.
communication, yes, the communication really comes into play there. Because at the end of the day, you have multiple parties who are just simply not hearing each other, and
Right.
they're letting the emotions or the
Get in
pride
the
get in the
way.
way. Exactly. And
And
so I
they're
use
they're
that.
they're they're hearing, but they're not listening maybe,
Yes, exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So you kinda gotta sort through the emotional baggage and kinda just, like, streamline it for them. Is that kind of
Exactly.
like the nitty-gritty of it?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go back to the relationship stuff and all
Okay.
that kinda stuff. So first, let's talk about your overachievers. If somebody like me came to you, what do you find to be the top couple of issues that people that are overachievers have? Do they have like a common issue, a common thread that you find from client to client?
Yes, when you peel back all the layers and
Mhm.
you get down to the root of it, it's
Right,
pretty much the same thing. It looks the exact same for most people.
right,
One of the first things is the awareness piece. A lot of achievers, high achievers, overachievers, they're not quite aware that they're not
a break.
putting themselves first.
Or
Right?
taking a break. They don't eat.
Yes. Yes. They're
Yeah.
not aware of just how much they're putting out as opposed to or as compared to what they're receiving in return. They're doing more of the pouring into other people, but they're not allowing themselves to be poured into. Yes. The other common denominator is also time management, productivity. Like as much as a high achiever wants to, have this great idea and these amazing goals, the organization isn't there
Right,
typically. The
Right.
time management is just off kilter, and that's what gets them into trouble.
That causes the burnout.
Exactly. Yep.
I have been, really trying to be very cognizant, especially in the evening when, I sit down and my husband comes home from work and he wants to talk to me and I'm still doing business and I got to realize Mr. Walmart, Mr. Target, Mr. Wendy's, Mr. Burger King, and McDonald's, they're not sitting on their phone answering business calls and texts and messages, right?
Mhm.
So as a small business, I really have to learn to like shut this and put it down and be more in the moment. Because I
Absolutely.
remember one time we were walking through the grocery store and he was talking to me about something and I was just like, and he's like, are you even with me? And I'm just like, no, honestly, I'm just like, yeah. And I'm just like, dude, I was like a million miles and I don't even know why we were in there. You know what I mean? Like, and he's like, what are we getting? And I was somewhere else, and I have to realize I have to be more mindful and be more in present moment.
Absolutely. Because otherwise, life will pass you by.
You miss a lot.
Yes.
You miss a
Time
whole
flies.
lot. So let's turn now to the juiciness because, Valentine's Day is coming up. And those of us who are booed up, cupcaking, you know, they said snuggle weather in February, you know what I
Uh-huh.
mean?
What they say,
But
cup in season.
cupcaking. They cupcaking. They're cupcaking. So, but I gotta tell you, we have a tendency to get on each other's nerves, though. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So, at wintertime, everybody's been in the house. You know what I mean? Now this lovey-dovey season's coming up. You know, do you find? Okay, so let me backtrack. What types of do you usually find for relationship issues? Married people come to you, or just folks that are together, like shacking up? Is it usually like a married thing, or is it just we're together but we're not legally married? I'm just wondering how you because I didn't if we weren't married. I'm just being honest. Am I unless I had some serious time invested? You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to a coach to fix this. You know what I'm saying? That's something that the next dude can do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I just asked because I'm curious. I've been out of the dating game a long time, y'all, but I just ask.
Yes. So it's both. It's both. So even for those who are not married, like you said, if they're coming to a coach or if they're going to a therapist or a counselor, if they're seeking help, it's because they have invested either a lot of time, their emotions or their heart is invested, or kids are a part of the picture, or finances.
Right. Right. You're right.
Yes.
You're right, though. You're right. So what would you say, is there a commonality between the issues? Like, even though they're married or unmarried, do you find that there's a commonality in the same issues that present to them? Like, everybody has bills, whether you're married or not. You know what I mean? You can have kids, whether you're married or not. You know what I mean? Somebody can cheat, whether they're married or not. You know what I mean? Somebody can have a drinking problem, whether you're married or not. So do you find that there's a commonality, or do you find that there's a difference between the married people and the single people?
So they're still common because at the end of the day, it's two individual people in a
Right,
relation with each other that are
right,
living in close quarters, that are under the same roof, that are
right.
dealing with the day-to-day stuff together. So it's pretty much the same thing. It looks again the same way. And some of those common issues that you see or that people tend to come about would be they call it we feel like we're growing apart. But what it tends to be is they're just not growing together. And that's usually rooted in the fact that their values aren't in alignment, or the values have shifted or changed over time. So that's the main thing.
I love that. So keep going, but I want to come back to that. I want to come back to the value thing. Keep going.
And so what one person may have valued 10 years ago at the beginning of that relationship, things have changed. People have matured. Kids may now be involved, or a new job or a new career has been involved, or health issues may now have been something that's on the table. And so if one person is, starting to see the light, so to speak, or maturing and really understanding that, what's more important in life, and if the other person isn't, then that's when they start to, yep, exactly.
Okay. So I'm always real honest in my show. So I always put my business out there.
Okay.
So hubby and I went to marriage counseling, and our therapist brought up the value system. And so since you said that, I was just like, oh my God, it sounds like what we did. So tell me, is this where you take all these different values and you cut them into squares, and then you decide maybe like what your top 5 values are, or
Exactly.
something like that?
Yes.
Can you explain? I know I was really vague about this. Can you explain that a little bit more for people that are watching? I don't remember what it's called. You would know. But yeah, I went through this and it was really cool. It was really cool. And it was hard.
It
really hard.
Yeah, it can be hard if your answers aren't matching. Yeah.
No, I mean, it was hard for me to narrow because my therapist gave us 84 values.
Okay.
And so for me to narrow them down to 3. From 84 to 3 was the rough part.
Yes.
Because I really had to be like, well, is that really important to me?
Right.
Well, is that, you know what I mean? And so that was hard. That was hard to pick through them. So
it makes you think.
It makes you think. So can you just explain it a little bit better than what I did?
No problem. So every coach or therapist may have their own way of doing it. So mine is slightly different. I don't provide a list in advance, but throughout the coaching sessions and as part of like assignments that I give my clients to do in between our sessions, that's where I will let them know, hey, so I need you to make a list. Typically, it's a list of everything that you feel is important to you, things that you cannot do without when it comes to the relationship, when it comes to your partner. And then we come back to our session or one of the next meetings, and then we talk about those differences, or we talk about the list, and then we see what the differences are. And in conversation, in real life examples that we're discussing in the moment, that's when clarity comes to my clients. And then they start narrowing down their list in the moment. And then that's where we eventually get to their top 5.
Right. Yeah. And it's not as easy as she makes it seem, y'all.
No, it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy.
It's simple. Right. It's very simple. I felt like I was playing like Pictionary or memory, or like I was back in school and I cut out all the little squares and I had them all laid out. You know what I mean? And we had and it was an assignment for each of us. So we had to do it separately.
Yes.
His list was something completely different. You know what I mean? Than what mine was. And it was enlightening.
Yes.
And I could see why he does some of the stuff that he does, and, you said as people, especially when people have been together for a long time, they tend to grow. And sometimes if they don't grow together, they really can start, going the separate paths. And, most people in my age bracket are starting now, they're slow down. You know what I mean? They
Mhm.
want to like retire and they want to go, get the kids out the house and all that kind of stuff. And so me, it's like I've started revving back up a little bit. You know what I mean? And so the difference where my husband is wants to wind down, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I'm picking it up, it was just kind of weird, I guess, to navigate, if I can say that.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah. So let me ask you, he's about to be 50. So is this where the midlife crisis comes in? Do you subscribe to that, the midlife crisis?
I don't,
I have
but
a
I
theory
hear it.
about midlife crisis, but
I don't, but I totally get what people mean when they say that phrase or when they're using that term or when they feel that they're in that season or that phase of life. But yeah.
they gotta feel like they still what? Still got it. They still gotta get it back. Or you know what I mean? They start dressing different. That's when the old chicks go and get boobs and the whole, you know what I mean? And the whole thing and that whole thing, right? See, I
Yeah.
see as I've gotten older, because I used to think 50 was like old as dirt, right? When I was younger. And now that I'm 50, I'm like, "Ooh, girl, I'm still young.
Right.
Knees are like not, but in the mind, I'm still young, and in the heart, I'm still young. But I see midlife crisis honestly is not really midlife crisis. It's the fact that by the time you hit midlife, you can afford all the shit you couldn't afford when you were younger.
Yes.
That's why they can drive them sports cars, because their insurance rate is okay. They can get a rate, right? A good finance rate on that car. They can afford the car note. You know what I'm saying? They can afford to get the boobs and all that stuff because they got the 401k. And, I think that's why it's not really a midlife crisis. It's just that you're just like, I think that light bulb goes off and you're like, I can afford that now.
Right. It's like now I can live, kids are grown and out of the house typically, it's like now it's time for me to really step out here. Yeah.
Exactly. And, and you might come into that a little bit also with some of your clients, as my daughter's 22, going to be 23, and my son's going to be 17. So he's almost out the house. I've had to kind of relearn who Helena is again,
Mhm.
because I've been ma, right? For so
Yes.
long that now learning who Helena is kind of like weird, and
Mm,
maybe some of the stuff that I used to like before, I don't like now,
no.
or some of the stuff that I didn't like before, I like to do now, or like places I like to go now. So it's different, as I've aged a little bit. So, yeah, do you come into that at all with your clients, going from, like, having a house full of kids to, like, empty nesters or anything like that?
Yes, absolutely. One of the biggest things that you mentioned, this is kind of like a realization that I have to have my clients become aware of is that every 10 years is when we do our bigger changes. And so from especially if you're married or in a relationship and or may have kids,
Right.
every 10 years is when, if your partner changes, you have to change with them. So therefore the growing apart doesn't happen. So every 10 years, once I kind of break that idea or that concept down, that's when a lot of the aha moments come to my clients,
Uh-huh.
because then they say,
Right.
you know what? Yeah, we used to like this. That was what we spent all of our time in. I still enjoy it, but he or she doesn't.
different.
Yeah, and they're the ones that's changing. And it's like, yes, they're changing.
Right. But it's
Every
not a
10 years.
bad thing.
Right.
Not a bad
Exactly.
thing. Right. Right.
Exactly.
So I got one more little juicy question for you.
Okay.
Because, like I said, we're going into lovey-dovey season. And so, what do you think about this? What do you think about cheating and the internet?
What about it?
So, meaning because it's online, is that considered cheating?
Ah,
Because it's something that's not attainable. Is that, but you never know if it's attainable these days. Look, you right next door to me. I didn't even know. Right? You know what I'm saying? That big bootylicious might be all next door. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what's
uh-huh.
going on. But typically, like, you know, especially a lot of guys will be like, it's online. It's not cheating. It's not hurting nobody.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
that? What is the coach perspective on that?
So that's layered. That's a really layered question. So for one, I'm going to speak on a point that you just mentioned. You know, if the guy or the girl says, "Oh, it's not hurting anyone." Well, if it's hurting your partner, then it is hurting someone. You know, if your partner doesn't appreciate it, it's hurting, you know, they're being hurt. You may not, just because it's not physical for most people,
Right.
who believe in the concept of cheating is not just physical, it's also emotional as well. So it really just depends on what the boundaries are, or what I'll just stick with boundaries for right now.
That's a good
It
word.
depends on what the boundaries are with the two people that are in the relationship. What did they set for each other? So do both people agree that, okay, we both agree that cheating for us is only if it's physical? If that's what they believe, that's what they
Within the
agree.
constructs of their own, right?
Exactly. Basically, it's all about what do both people say is allowed and what is not allowed. Because my beliefs, I can't impose my beliefs on them, but I
Right.
do know, well, for me and for a lot of people, you know, cheating is more than just the physical act of it. But if a couple says, no, for us, we both agree that there's nothing wrong as long as there's no physical contact. So I have to first get their understanding of what cheating is and what did they decide when they were first meeting each other, when they were creating the
Right.
relationship boundaries or rules, or whatever you want to call it. And then we go from there.
So do you put strip clubs in the same category?
If they do, it's not about me, you know, so
Right. I
it's
mean,
based
oh,
off
right.
of them.
Okay. I got you.
Some couples do. Some couples are like, you know, he or she went out to the
That's
strip
their
club
thing.
and they're
Right.
seeing all of these men or these women, you know,
Right.
half naked. And, you know, I don't appreciate that. And so in that particular conversation or that session, then we would address that. Other couples, they may say, no, this is something that we enjoy doing together. We both go
Right.
to the
Right.
strip club. And so
Right.
in that case, for them, it's not necessarily wrong.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
So it's a case by case thing.
Yeah, it's true. I'm just, because, I know of a couple who, like that sister wives type, you know what I mean, type thing. And they will go to a new city and travel and meet new people. And I'm like, but that's their thing.
Yeah.
They do it together. You know what I mean? So these are just questions that I'm nosy. And I was trying to think of like, what kind of good relationship questions can we talk about for Valentine's Day? You know what I mean? Because it's not always hunky dory. You know what I mean? So when you say people growing apart and not following the same path, though, do you mean kind of like I'm doing like my husband's slowing down and I'm speeding up? Or do you find that it's more of a I don't even or they say like a lot of couples divorce or break up because finances are one of the biggest issues that are in the forefront. You know what I mean? Do you
Yeah.
find anything like that, or
Both,
Mm,
and yes, and all of the above.
mhm.
Finances for sure. If one person is doing more of the spending and the other person is trying to save
Sorry.
for retirement, or,
Mm,
save for not knowing what economy, is going to do in another year or two or 10. So
uh,
absolutely finances. Also, like you mentioned, one person is ready to, see, let's see what's out here. The other person is like, I'm ready to just enjoy life the simple way,
I'm a rocking
and
chair.
yeah. So all of the above.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's so relationships are so dynamic, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But all in all, it's almost like the basic underlying is really, um, to be with somebody who completes and strengthens where you don't have it. So it's reciprocated. So if I know that I'm great with public speaking and my husband doesn't like to do that, instead of making him go in front of somebody, I would do that. If I know that if he can fix something and I can't fix it, why would I struggle? I would let him do it. It's completing each other and picking up um the shortcomings and the strengths and playing off of each other dually and
Yes. Yes.
reciprocate. I know the word and I can't say it. Reciprocatively. I'm trying to get it out, but yes.
Yes.
Yes, that one.
Yep. Where you complement each other.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I hate to be so cliche. What is the movie? You complete me. You know what I mean? I'm trying not to go there, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
The underlying, premise really for all relationships is to love and to be loved. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Unconditionally, right? So do you have any words of wisdom, energy for all those lovebirds out there?
Yeah. So one thing that I would always leave with couples is to just first take the time to learn who you are. Self awareness is going to be the key to a successful relationship with someone else. So if you can master yourself inside your mind, your thoughts, your emotions, knowing what your values are, knowing what your purpose in life is, then you can be the best version of yourself. So when you're in a relationship, you are showing up 100% complete and whole. And if both people do that, then there you go.
Then you should be okay. Well,
Yes, well ahead of everyone
something
else.
ahead of the schedule, ahead of
Yes.
the curve. So, Energy, if anybody wants to reach out to you, if they are in need of some high achievers, that need to get off that hamster wheel and need help prioritizing their life and kind of balancing a little bit, or, if they need some relationship help, right? How can they find you? How can they reach out to you?
Yes, the best place is my website. That's where all of my contact information is. You can also click the links or the little icons for my social media if you
Nice.
prefer to follow that way. However, my website is energyspeakslife.com, and energy is spelled Nrgy. Energyspeakslife.com. And you can jump right there on my calendar and go ahead and sign up for a complimentary consultation. No obligation to do anything after that, but what's the harm in at least reaching out to see what we could possibly do together?
And I tell you, that value, system work is really, really good.
Yes, it's so important.
I can vouch for that. That is really good. And I like the approach that you take to it as opposed to giving you a construct already of values. I like that you let the folks develop their own.
Yes, yes. I don't like
I
to
like that.
limit them, because when we give a pre-list, it's kind of like, okay, we've just closed them in a box. Now they have to choose from these things.
I literally
And
wrote 2 of 2 in.
see, exactly.
I chose one of 84 and wrote 2 in because
Exactly.
it didn't fit. You know what I mean? Like it didn't fit what I was trying to say.
Yeah, it doesn't
You
fit
know?
you. Yes,
Right, it
you're
wasn't the
different.
right word to convey, and it wasn't like it was anything crazy, I'm really, I wanted to be seen,
Yes.
and that's not really a value. I mean, a value that was on the lit. You know what I mean? And so, yes, you want to be valued. That's one, but that's different from being seen and being heard and being appreciated. Being seen for actually who you are is a lot different.
A lot.
That's a
Yes.
big difference. So I like that. Yeah, I'm glad they had some write-ins, but I'm glad that you let people actually develop their own.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Because the individual is the person who can tell you about themselves the best. As a coach, I'm just helping you pull it out of you and I'm helping you make it make sense. That's it.
Right. You're like that guide, right? That's
Yes.
just like pulling. It's already in us. We already know it's there. We might even know what to do.
Yes.
We just can't quite put those pieces together to get it to work. And you're
Right.
the one. You're like the master puzzle maker. You know what I mean? That puts us all together.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love it, Nrgy. And I can't believe you're right next to me.
I know we have to connect.
We definitely can. We'll have to do coffee like in person or so and have a nice little chat, girl.
Absolutely. You let me know when.
All righty. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you tonight. Again, nrgyspeakslife.com. Go ahead and hit her up. Also, if you got some court stuff going on, she might just walk into the room on you. She might just pop up. She might just pop up and you didn't even know.
You never know. Contact me before you go to court because I do private cases as well. So you can contact me directly.
Okay. What? So that's nice to know. That's nice because I'm thinking court appointed, 2 people that are going to be at each other. And then here comes Nrgy, sunshiny. I'm going to just make this all good for y'all. And I'm just like, court appointed sunshine, right? I love it. Nrgy Speaks Life, y'all. Go ahead and hit her up. All right, sweetie. It has been a pleasure. And until next week, we will see y'all soon. Bye now.
Bye.